So many people have commented on my channel and said, oh, it's easy for you to give Airbnb advice. You started 3 to 5 years ago when it was easy and interest rates were low. It's so frustrating to me because it's an excuse. It's an excuse to not get started in real estate. And my general philosophy is to just get started. And no matter what, if you stick with it in 5, 10, 15, 20 years, no matter what the market looked like when you started, you will look like a genius if you stick it out. However, what I wanted to do on today's episode of Raw Built is teach you how I would make $10,000 a month on Airbnb if I lost everything today and had to restart. By the way, this video is going to be the first in a 3-part series on how to start an Airbnb business with $0. So you're going to want to click the subscribe button and notification bell so that you're alerted as I release these videos over the next couple of weeks. If I had to start from the very beginning, this is exactly what I would do even during a real estate crash, even when interest rates are 8%, even whenever inflation has pushed the price of Chipotle burritos with double protein and a Coke Zero to $16.44. I digress. This is exactly what I would do. I'm gonna give you one caveat before we get started. This is my no BS approach. Everything that I'm about to tell you, I've done in some capacities. Some of the stuff I'm even doing right now. And the biggest caveat of all is that this isn't going to be easy. All right, what I'm about to teach you is not some easy, hey, I'm gonna teach you how to make $10,000 a month and you're gonna retire on a beach BS that you hear from all the other Airbnb dudes on the internet, all right? If you do what I tell you, you will lose sleep. You will have to leave birthday dinners early. You won't ever get to watch a movie at the theater in peace because you're gonna have a guest that calls you randomly telling you that your remote is broken and you're gonna spend 30 minutes teaching them how to swap the batteries out only to find out that they weren't even using the correct remote to begin with, and it's gonna be hard work, okay? What I'm about to teach you is not hard, but it is hard work. And if you're down to do the hard work, this is the blueprint. Exactly what I'm gonna tell you is a perfectly reasonable and possible way to get started in Airbnb in 2023 going into 2024. One more final little thing, I've put this entire blueprint into PDF form so you can download it, print it out, take notes, and follow my blueprint to the T. And now, on to the T. Stupid. Let's hop into it and talk about the basic system that we're gonna be using here to make $10,000 a month. There are 6 components to this and they're not always gonna go in chronological order, but I'm gonna try to give this to you in the most chronological order that I can, okay? 1 is gonna be work for cheap. 2, bird dog for others. 3, use other people's property. 4, you're gonna sell your brain. 5, you are going to partner and buy. And 6, you are just going to buy outright for yourself without partners. If you do all of these things and pace yourself, I promise you that making $10,000 a month using short-term rentals will feel relatively realistic and approachable. That's always my goal with this channel. All right, so let's hop into number 1, and that is work for cheap, okay? You know nothing about short-term rentals, and thus you will be offering your services to others for a very, very small amount of money. You can consider this interning for another Airbnb host. And like I said, you will charge minimally for your undeveloped skill set, and you will act as a VA for another short-term rental host, AKA a virtual assistant.
I hate the new assistant. He's only been here for a week. I hate him.
Now, what can you actually charge as a virtual assistant? I think it's very feasible to charge about $100 a month per property to assist another host. And you're gonna be doing things like responding to messages, helping them with their automations, adjusting prices week to week. And $100 a property is actually a steal. As a developed host, if someone was charging me $100 a month to manage my property with my oversight, I would be pretty excited about that. I know a lot of you are gonna comment like, Rob, I'll do this for you. Go do this for other hosts. Again, this is just the blueprint for demonstrative purposes. Or is it demonstrative purposes? Demonstrative purposes. This is all for demonstrative purposes. You know, Caleb, let me know, which one is it? Now, if you did this, I think that you could realistically pick up 5 of these per month, all right? I think you could either have one host give you 5 properties and they pay you $500 a month, which again is a steal for them, or I think you can go out and hustle and find 5 hosts and take on 1 different property from 5 different hosts. And if you did just this skill, guess what? You're making $500 a month, only $9,500 to go. Boom. And I think you can honestly snowball this business to make you more than that, but just for the sake of simplicity, let's start with 5. Next, you are going to bird dog for others, all right? So you're probably saying like, well, what is a bird dog? I know it's the shorts that you always wear in your videos that make your butt look good, but bird dogging in the context of real estate just means going out and finding deals for other people. This is a huge opportunity right now that I think is completely underutilized in the short-term rental community, and I personally think you can make a lot of money doing this. So what kind of Airbnb deals are hosts even looking for? So there are a large amount of hosts out there that want to get into rental arbitrage, which is the concept of going out, cold calling landlords, and convincing them to let you lease their apartment or home. And if they say yes, you will then furnish it and list it on Airbnb. Pretty simple concept in general, and everyone makes it seem like this is such an easy way to break into Airbnb, which it isn't hard, but it is hard work, which is what I always say. But really though, it does require you making a lot of phone calls to a ton of landlords, because you're gonna get hung up on by landlords, cussed at by landlords, and landlords that just aren't interested in doing this because they don't understand it, they think it's risky. So you'll have to make 30 to 100 calls to ever have a landlord really ever agree to this in general. These are general numbers here. And because of that, there are a lot of people that want to get into rental arbitrage, but they don't want to do that. A lot of people hate cold calling. And so if you're willing to go out there and cold call and obtain these leads, you can basically talk a landlord into this concept, have them agree to it, and then connect that landlord with a host that wants to do rental arbitrage, and then charge a finder's fee whenever that lease has been executed between the landlord and said aspiring rental arbitrage host. Stop, Caleb. I know you're like, Rob's gonna make me edit this out. Don't want that. I know you're like, oh, I'll put it in because he's probably gonna let me leave it in and it'll be fun. Just, no, take that out.
Some men just want to watch the world burn.
So general concept here, you bird dog, you go find a rental arbitrage lease for somebody, you then assign that lease to the person that wants to do it, and you make a fee for doing so. And I think you could actually charge $1,000 per executed lease / contract. And I think you could very easily crush 2 of these every single month, and that would make you an extra $2,000 a month. Now, as I said, you're making 30 to 100 phone calls every single time you do this, right? But I know a ton of experienced rental arbitrage hosts that usually lock these down every 30 to 50 calls. So if you got really good at this and we went to the high end of 50 calls and we're trying to get 2 of these going, that's 100 calls a month, all right? So just basic math here would say that you have to make 100 divided by 30, 3.3 calls. So let's say 4 phone calls a day pitching landlords. Very easy and obtainable to do that. You could really do 10 of these a day. You could do 20 or 30 a day, depending on how much time you have and how dedicated you are. You can make a ton of phone calls and really lock these down in a week. But if you do all of this, that's $2,000 a month. Where are we at? $2,500 a month, and you're not even hosting yet. So I want you to aim to crush 2 of these every single month. And I promise you, this is not something that I just made up. The Host Camp student body would pay you money to find them a great rental arbitrage property. All right, we're not done with this quite yet. We're gonna move on to what I call bird dogging 2.0. So this is the same concept, but a bit of a different execution. In the initial concept, I said you're gonna go out, find a deal, give that deal to someone else, charge a finder's fee. However, at a certain point, you will have been managing and VAing for someone and building experience. And so what I wanna push you to do is, instead of selling that deal off, you partner with somebody. You go find a deal, and then you go find someone to fund it, and then you do a revenue share. In exchange for someone funding it, you are gonna bring the sweat equity, you will be the boots on the ground, and you will do the day-to-day management on a rental arbitrage unit. And in this instance, I think you could charge a 50-50 split. Now, we'll say typically a rental arbitrage unit will bring in a profit of about $1,000 a month. And so if you go and find a deal, bring it to someone, they fund it, and you get 50% of that, you will now be making $500 every single month from that one unit. And now you're stacking everything, right? You're working for cheap, you're finding deals for other people, and then for select deals, you're picking them off for yourself and finding someone to fund it, and you're actually partnering up with them and taking a 50-50 rev share. And if you just do these 3 things that I just told you consistently, you are now at $3,000 per month. 2,000, 500, 500, 2,500. Not bad. And you might be wondering, hey, if I have a bird dog deal that I want to sell to somebody, who can I sell that to, Rob? Well, you can actually do that over on the Airbnb Besties Facebook group. That's my free Facebook group. That is my audience and other aspiring hosts and other experienced hosts, and a lot of networking and cool stuff going on. Totally free. If you want to join it, leave a link in the description down below. I think we have like 2,500 members now, and I want to keep offering that to my audience because it's a really cool thing to see you guys connect outside of the vicious comment section of YouTube and TikTok. Now we're gonna move on to the next step in this system that we're calling OPP, other people's property, and you're gonna use other people's property to scale up your portfolio. After about 3 months, you're gonna have about $3,000 saved. I hope you didn't spend it because you're gonna need every dime to continue scaling. If you did, at around month 4, you will have about $10,000 saved up. 4 to 5, somewhere in there, depending on how things go. You will use that $10,000 to get into your first rental arbitrage property. Now remember what I said at the beginning of this, rental arbitrage is the concept where you go and you pitch a landlord and you say, hey landlord, I like your unit. Can I lease it from you for the next 2 to 4 years and then furnish it and then list it on Airbnb during those 2 to 4 years? After you pitch many landlords, again, hard work, not hard, one of them will say yes. You'll take that $10,000 and you'll use it to start your first arbitrage property, which is our average. Sometimes you can do it for 8, sometimes it's 12. It depends on a lot of different factors, but $10,000 is the average here. And as I mentioned previously, a good rental arbitrage unit is usually gonna bring about $1,000 in profit every single month. And boom, boom. Yeah, $1,000. Great, you just added $1,000 to your $3,000 every single month. That's pretty good. And remember, you're not quitting that VA job. You haven't ceased finding deals for other people. You're still hustling on the side while you acquire your own units. And this is gonna be your first one in a very pivotal moment for you because the stakes are high. You just put all the hard-earned money that you made over the past 3 months towards a unit. And in your mind, you're probably thinking this has to go right because $10,000 is a lot of money. So let's say you do this, you get this rental arbitrage unit going, you did it for $10,000, fantastic. But the problem is, now you're out of money.
We f***ed up.
So give up, it's over, go home, call it quits. There's nothing you can do from here. All right, obviously I'm lying because if you're just looking at the media player on YouTube, obviously there's way more video left. Now we're gonna evolve this using other people's property into what I call other people's property 2.0. It's a very small shift here, but it's an important one. You've now got a pretty solid amount of experience VAing for other people, finding deals, running someone else's property, and of course you have your own property that you're running now. You're going to continue pitching landlords, but your pitch is gonna change. And this is where you really start unlocking the other people's property model. Instead of pitching them on the concept of arbitrage, you're gonna go to a landlord and you're gonna pitch them on the concept of co-hosting. This is actually one of my favorite versions of Airbnb because it actually requires zero money from you to get started. But I pitched this a little bit later on because I want you to build the experience before you start pitching this. So what is co-hosting? Co-hosting is what you've been doing all along. You're running someone else's property. You're effectively their property manager. You're answering their messages, right? Like that's the general premise of a co-host. But in this instance, what you're gonna tell a landlord is, hey, instead of you leasing your unit long-term for let's say $1,500 a month, I would like to propose I run it as a short-term rental. You'll put up all the money for the furnishings. I'll help you get it furnished and up and running. I will manage all of it for you so you don't have to do any work and you'll make more money than you would renting it long-term even after you pay me my property management fee. But in general, the average co-hosting fee is 20%. 20% of gross revenue, not of net revenue, of gross revenue. So if you find a landlord whose unit will gross $45,000, you would make 20% of that, which comes out to $9,000 a year or $750 a month. $750 a month that goes right into your pocket for co-hosting someone else's Airbnb. I know that I'm explaining this in a way that is like, well, easy for you to say. No, this is genuinely a business model that a lot of people make a lot of money doing this. And I'm gonna really start educating you guys on building a co-hosting business because I think this is a really safe way for you to get started. It gives you all of the upside and none of the downside. I think the problem with rental arbitrage is that you're on the hook for the monthly rent, no matter what. So if you don't make rent, you lose the money. Whereas on the co-hosting side, you get the 20% no matter what. Now we want you to perform well and you're gonna be incentivized to perform well because the more money your rental makes, the more money you make. Anyways, the idea here is that you've just added $750 to your monthly cash flow. Next, I want you to stay here for a little bit. I know I just gave you a lot of stuff to do for the first 5 months and it's like, wait, is there not another step here? Not really. I can't overemphasize how much I love co-hosting and how much I think that this should really become a big part of your business when you're getting started. Because really, the better you get at this, the more you can charge. And the more you can start targeting properties that make more money every year. $45,000 is on the low end of properties. What if you could find properties that on average make $60,000 a month? This is super possible. Most of my properties are well above that. So believe me when I say it is possible. If a property is making $60,000 a year and you're charging 20%, that is $12,000 a year that you make as a co-host or $1,000 a month. So if you did this 2 times, if you found 2 properties that make $60,000 a year, you just added $2,000 to your monthly cash flow. And boy, ain't it good. And I hope that you're listening to me say this and you're thinking to yourself, hey, I can do this, because you can. What I've just described to you so far is a very realistic way to make $6,750 every single month if you work on building your book of short-term rental business. Oh yeah, and I think we're at like month 7. It's pretty good. Not really a crazy long timeline, right? Show of hands, digital hands, who here thinks they can do this? If you feel like what I just said to you is doable, will you just do me a favor, go to the comment section and say, yo dude, thank you for breaking that down. That's actually not that hard. In those exact words, please. Let's move on and close the gap between $6,750 a month to $10,000 a month. Next part of the system is you are going to sell your brain. What this means is you are going to post your journey to social media in excruciating detail. You are going to share your story. You are going to share your successes. You're going to share your downfalls. You are going to be transparent. You are going to share with people how passionate and how much you love Airbnb, and then you are going to market your skills. You are going to start offering consultations to your network. People want the knowledge that you have about Airbnb. They are willing to pay for it because it is a very scary thing for a lot of people that don't know anything about Airbnb, that don't know the Raw Built channel exists and don't subscribe to Raw Built. But you subscribe, right? And if me saying that makes you realize that you don't, then maybe you'll like go down to the bottom of the screen right now and subscribe really fast and hit like while you're down there. Thanks. All right, but seriously, people will pay you for your knowledge. And I think you could very easily charge people $100 an hour to consult them in the world of Airbnb and how it works and how you manage guests and how you set up your automations and how you deal with all their crazy Karens. Oftentimes people really want to get into this business, but they just need a few questions answered to push them over the edge. And you could be that person for them. And I think if you did 5 of these a month, which is very reasonable if you are actually posting your journey and marketing yourself on social media, you can make an extra $500 a month consulting people pretty easily. 5 times a month, 5 hours of your time, $100 an hour, $500 total. And again, I know a lot of people that do this and they don't have crazy YouTube platforms or Instagram followings or anything like that. They just make their knowledge and expertise known to their peers. Next step in this journey is selling your brain 2.0, all right? Instead of selling your knowledge, you are now going to sell your skill set. And what I mean by this is you are going to set up other people's Airbnbs. You've done this a time or two now. You understand the process. You can now make this process so much easier for someone wanting to get into the game or someone that wants to scale. And then you can actually charge around $5,000 setting up someone else's Airbnb. Now, if you just did one of these, if you locked down one client per year setting up their short-term rental and you divided that $5,000 over the course of a year, that comes out to roughly $400 a month. I'll tell you right now, my biggest problem is setting up Airbnbs, okay? So if I'm looking to set up an Airbnb in different parts of the country, it is no longer feasible for me or other short-term rental hosts that are in my boat to fly out there and set up their own Airbnbs. And so while paying someone $5,000 might seem a little steep, I can actually tell you it's kind of a relief and a necessity for truly scaling. So when I tell you that there are operators that need this, I mean it. All right, so I'm gonna have Caleb bring it all up here. And if you do all of these things, you start selling your knowledge through hourly consultations and then selling your skill set by setting up other people's Airbnbs, that brings you to a monthly cash flow of $7,650, which I gotta be honest with you, when I was mapping this out, it was really hard to do it because there's like 80 ways to make $10,000 a month on Airbnb. I've done it many different ways, and just understand that what I'm mapping out here isn't like the way. It's just one of the many ways to do it. But moral of the story is there are many ways to do this. This one just seemed pretty easy to me. Anyways, moving on. If you do all these things, you'll be at $7,650 a month. Did I say that right? That sounded weird. $7,650 a month. $7,650. Leave me alone. Shut up. Moving on to the next step in the system, which is partnering and buying. Don't forget the whole posting to social media thing. This is super important, right? You want people to understand who you are, what you're about, that you love this short-term rental thing. You're gonna go out and find someone in your network with capital, but no time. And in exchange of them funding your Airbnb, you are going to be the sweat equity, AKA the operations partner. Now, this is actually how I scaled up the majority of my portfolio. And before many of you say, well, yeah, Rob, you had a YouTube channel, blah, 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 you did the YouTube channel, you were making little funny videos and
6.5 hours later.
Anyways, I did all of this before I ever started the Rob Built YouTube channel. Honestly, I found many partners in business before I ever started the channel, okay? So I wasn't an influencer. The YouTube channel didn't exist. The only thing that existed was my Instagram account and my Facebook account, where I was posted about the cool Airbnb things I was doing. And I had people and friends that reached out that said, hey, seems like you're pretty good at this Airbnb thing. Would you be interested in partnering? And I was like, are you kidding me? Free house, let's do it. And that's how I was really able to scale my portfolio. So really what I want you to know is that there are more people in your network that are willing to do this than you think. So let's say you're able to find a capital partner. You might be saying, all right, well, how do I structure this deal? There are many ways to structure this, but when I was getting started, I often structured 50-50 splits. And that basically meant that we were 50-50 equity partners in this entire business. A simple phrase I would always use is, they were the bankroll, I was the brains. They would fund it, I would run it, right? So that's sort of like the value that you're bringing to this arrangement is someone's got money and they just don't have the time to do Airbnb. They like the idea, it appeals to them, they just are busy with their 9-to-5 job. You're like, hey, sir, give me your money, I will take it, I'll deploy it, I'll go start us an Airbnb and you'll never hear from me. You'll never have to worry about leaky toilets or crazy Karens or dead remote batteries or anything like that. I'll handle all of that and I'll send you mailbox money every single month. Now, once you've ideally negotiated a 50-50 split here, again, I've got a couple of videos on how to structure this type of arrangement, but let's just say you're able to do a 50-50, which is doable. You would want to go and find a property that could make cash flow. And I think it's an achievable goal to go find and buy a property that can make you $2,000 a month. Now you're going to split this $2,000 a month with your partner. And then after you split it, you're adding $1,000 to your monthly cash flow. This is going to be a huge step in your Airbnb business because you finally own something. You finally get to build equity. You finally get to take advantage of the really amazing tax code that is written for real estate investors. And it's just the moment where, hey, you own something and over time, You're gonna continue paying down the debt, which other people pay for by renting your property, and it's gonna go up in value. Congratulations, you've officially become a real estate investor. And after you add this $1,000 to your cash flow, that brings you to $8,650 that you make in profit every month, hustling, side hustling. Again, not gonna be the easiest 8 months or so of your life, but you'll learn a lot and you'll be really glad that you did it. And you'll be really proud of yourself for building a business without really owning any property really on the front end till the very end there. That makes you $8,650 a month. I see host campers do this all the time, and it's like, it's a really cool thing once you actually turn the corner and figure out that this is all a game. They're all levers that you pull. It's a formula, and the formula is hard work and consistency and problem solving. And if you do that, you start unlocking your potential. And we're back to OPP, other people's property, because again, you've been saving your money. This is the hardest skill that you're gonna learn, is not spending the money that you make from Airbnb, but saving it and redeploying it back into your business. This is something I've done from the very beginning of my business. I've really spent very little of my real estate profits on personal pleasure. That sounds weird, but on personal things, I always spend my real estate money on real estate stuff and reinvesting back into the portfolio. But if you've been saving diligently and you've been hitting your marks at around the 10 to 12 month mark, you should have about $15,000 to $20,000 saved up. And you can use that money to get into a higher end, more luxurious arbitrage unit. Now, I've got a couple of arbitrage units here in the Houston area. They're all pretty high end. They're all decked out pretty nice. And roughly, to get those up and running, it costs us about $20,000 in furnishings. They're bigger. We usually get 3 or 4 bedroom units and we furnish them nicely. But the cool thing about these units is that they don't make $1,000 a month. They usually make about $1,500 a month. As a matter of fact, Caleb, show this right here. This reservation came in for a whole month-long stay at one of my units. It was a $7,000 reservation. Our expenses on that one are, our rent is $3,300. Our cleaning on that was just one time, $275, and about $600 in utilities. And after all of those expenses, we made about $2,800 in profit. We don't always make $2,800 a month per unit. Like I said, the average on these usually come out to about $1,500 a month. So the higher end you go, the more money you make, but there's a little bit more risk involved because the expenses are a lot higher. $3,300 a month in rent is pretty high, but it also gives us the upside to make up to $2,800 a month. Risky, but I believe in myself and my ability and my partner's ability to hit our marks on that one. So if you get a nicer, higher end Airbnb and you add $1,500 to your monthly cash flow, that now brings your monthly cash flow grand total to $10,150. Boom, $10,000 a month, baby. We did it. We did it. And I will say this is the path that you would have to take if you didn't have money. If you came into this whole situation with 20, 30, 40, 50 grand, you can circumvent a lot of that beginning stuff and just go right into rental arbitrage and co-hosting. But I really try to tailor this video to someone that's really coming in with no money at all. Don't know why I'm like miming. I'm like, no money at all. You know what I mean? You know what I mean, man? You know what I mean? You know what I mean? You know what? I'm getting delusional. One other thing I'm gonna say is I've got 3 rental arbitrage units, and speaking just on those 3, we spent about $60,000 to get into them. Makes us about $4,500 a month in profit. So just so you understand, if you have a little bit of money and you can just go straight to the good stuff, you can actually get to $10,000 a month a little bit easier. But I was able to skip the line because I'm good at this and I've got capital and I've worked hard over 7 years to build what I have, okay? No matter what the YouTube comments say, I swear, I'm a legitimate guy, man. Now, you're not really off the hook here, right? I just taught you how to make $10,150 every single month, but you're not gonna spend it. I'm sorry. Remember, the idea here is you're gonna be disciplined, you're gonna be saving, because I'm trying to put you on a path to owning real estate. You know, the arbitrage stuff, not really my favorite way to get into the game. Co-hosting is much better in my opinion, but I understand it's a necessary path for so many of you, which is why I'm covering it more on the channel, because I just feel like I want to be able to make this approachable and relatable to everyone that watches this. And so that's why I've made this video. But I really want to stress that it's a means to an end. And I want you to save your money, because if you were able to save your $10,000 that you're making every single month for a year, guess what? That's $120,000 a year that you can make on the side with your little side hustle, right? So all of that was within a year. But year 2 is all about saving. This will be your year of saving. You're going to be very disciplined and you're going to stack that bank account. And then you're going to use that 120 grand to go out and buy a house. 120,000 is enough for a 20% down payment on a $400,000 house, furnishings and closing costs. And if you're able to get a 20% cash on cash return, which is a little bit harder today, but still doable depending on the deal and a lot of other things, a 20% cash on cash return comes out to $24,000 a year or $2,000 a month. And great, now you own this house yourself outright. You now add this $2,000 to your 10,000, right? Brings you to $12,150 every month. Or you part ways with maybe that virtual assistant job where you're managing 5 properties for $500 a month. Or maybe you're not bird dogging deals anymore and you decide to give up that $2,000 a month so you can focus on the business that you have. Like, it gives you options, and the reason you have those options is because you saved your money so that you could buy a house. And that cash flow from that house frees you from the responsibilities and commitments you had to take on when you first got started. Now, one more alternative path to all of this is, let's say that you do the first 1 through 4 months as prescribed, right? That's gonna be working for cheap, bird dogging for others 2.0, using OPP to rental arbitrage and OPP to co-host your first listing. So if you do the first 1 through 4 months as prescribed, right, that brings us to $47.50. What you could also do is just use other people's property to get into 6 more co-hosting units. I know it sounds kind of crazy, but it really isn't that hard if you're making phone calls, if you're going to real estate meetups, if you're going to Facebook Marketplace, and you're using a whole other slew of strategies. You could pick up 6 clients in 6 months, 1 client a month. And if you did that with properties that were making $60,000 a year, then that's $6,000 a month that you could make. And that would actually put your monthly total at $10,750, which is not bad. However, one thing I want to say is, like, we don't have to rush this, right? Like, you don't have to build a $10,000 a month Airbnb business in a year. I actually think it's going to feel a little better if you try to do this over the course of 2 years so you're not getting burned out. I mean, I want you to make it as fast as you want to make it, but I want you to also pace yourself so that you don't hate this business. If we just slowed you down a little bit, all right? In the first 4 months, we focus on the prescriptive roadmap I gave you, and we get you to $47.50 a month. You could then focus months 4 through 24. You could focus the next 18 months on picking up 6 more co-hosting clients, all right? That's 1 more client every 3 months, right? Every 3 months, you making phone calls, going to real estate meetups, you're going to Facebook Marketplace, you're advertising your services, and every 3 months, you just pick up 1 more client. And over the course of 2 years, you can build that same $10,000 a month business at a much more scalable and doable pace. This is possible. I'm telling you it's possible, because I know it's possible because I've done it and I've seen other people that have done it. And I hope this video broke down the process and made you feel like you can do this. That's what this channel is all about. If you like this plan that I put together, don't forget to download my blueprint that lays it all out for you in PDF form. It gives you the ability to take notes and follow along with the strategy if you don't want to watch this video all over again, which, you know, I understand. I don't always stay on topic, but hopefully I make this fun. But if you really like this video, then you're going to want to tune into the next video, and I'm going to take you through the process of rental arbitrage and co-hosting, the pros and cons of both, and how to get your first unit using both strategies. So I'm really excited to teach you that. So tune in next week, because you're not going to want to miss that video, or you could always click right here. All right, catch you on the next episode of Raw Built.